One.
Are you aware that 1 in every 4 women will experience domestic violence in her lifetime? Domestic violence is defined as a violence or physical abuse directed towards your spouse or domestic partner, usually men against women. www.domesticviolence.org states that examples of abuse are name-calling or put-downs, keeping your spouse from contacting family members or friends, withholding money, stopping a partner from getting or keeping a job, actual or threatened physical harm, sexual assault, intimidation, or stalking. Today I'm going to try to persuade you the importance of reporting domestic violence. I will discuss why most cases of domestic violence are not reported, why they should be reported, and what to do if you are in an abusive relationship. First, let's look at why women do not report domestic violence. It is in a woman's nature to hold everything together no matter what it is doing to them or how bad they are being hurt. Because women are this way, many cases of domestic violence go unreported. An article on RHRealityCheck.org states that 1.3 million women are victims of physical assault by an intimate partner each year. It also states that 85% of domestic violence victims are women and 50% of domestic violence cases has a witness present, half of those witnesses being children. These percentages do not include the cases that go unreported. Women's reasons for not reporting domestic violence could be that they are scared that if they do report it and there's no arrest made or no help given of what will happen to them. Also, it can be very embarrassing to a woman to have her whole life put on display for everyone to see. Women may also think that their spouse or loved one will not abuse them again because they love each other. www.policymike.com says that according to the National Coalition Against Domestic violence is the most underreported crimes. 25% of all physical assaults, 20% of all rapes, and 50% of all stalking perpetrated against females by their partners are reported to the police. On average, a woman will be assaulted 35 times before reporting it to the police. Now that we have discussed why women don't report the abuse, let's talk about why the violence should be reported. Domestic violence may lead to physical injury, psychological trauma, and or death. www.ncjrs.gov tells us that 1,000 to 1,600 women die every year because of domestic violence. However, that estimated number of deaths do not count all the suicides or other deaths that were caused by being in an abusive relationship. If domestic violence goes unreported, then the abuse will continue because the victims aren't receiving help of a way out of the relationship. Of all the female homicide victims reported to the police, 1/3 of them were committed by an intimate partner. 1 in 12 women have been stalked in their lifetime. 81% of women stalked by an intimate partner are also physically assaulted by that partner. You can find this information and more at www.ncadv.org. Domestic violence can cross generations. Witnessing violence between one parent or caretakers is the strongest risk factor of transmitting violence behavior from one generation to the next. Boys who witness domestic violence are twice as likely to abuse their own partners and or their children when they become adults. Abusers will use any kind of tactics to manipulate you and show you that they have the power in the relationship. Dominance is one of those tactics. An abuser will tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Humiliation is an abuser's way of making you feel worthless and that no one else will want you, making you not want to leave them. An abuser uses isolation to make you depend solely on them by keeping you from contacting your family and friends. Another tactic is that an abuser will blame you, their childhood, or even a bad day as the reason they abuse you, making you think that if you change, or if you play your cards right, or even if they have a good day, it won't happen again, which is not always the case. When you are in an abusive relationship, an abuser will use intimidation or threats to make you stay or keep you from reporting it to the police. Intimate partner violence results in more than 18.5 million healthcare visits each year. If women would report domestic violence more, maybe things would change. If women knew that there are people and organizations that will help them get out of an abusive relationship, maybe these high numbers that I have mentioned would not be so high. It is very important for women to report domestic violence so that they can get help and maybe even save their own lives. Now for the most important part of my speech. I would like to inform you of what to do if you are in an abusive relationship. Why doesn't she just leave? This question is what many people say and ask when they find out someone is being abused. If you are trying to leave in an abusive relationship, you need to have a plan, called a safety plan. You need to prepare for emergencies, be aware of your abuser's triggers, and come up with several different excuses to leave the house day or night that he will believe. Come up with a word, phrase, or a signal to let your children, friends, family, or neighbors know that you are in immediate trouble and need them to call 911 immediately. It is very important that you make an escape plan. Be ready to leave at any moment's time. You need to practice escaping quickly and safely, especially if you have children. And also you need to have a list of emergency contacts memorized just in case. Another way to get help is to call a hotline. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. The National Sexual Assault Hotline is 1-800-656-HOPE. The National Teen Dating Abuse Hotline is 1-866-331-9474. Another way to get help is to call 911 and report it to the police. Domestic violence occurs when a person is forced to do what his or her abuser wants them to do through physical, verbal, psychological, or sexual violence. In order to change the fact that domestic violence is one of the most underreported crimes, we need to inform people of how to get help and persuade them to report this violence to the police. I would like to thank you for your time today and would like to encourage you to research how you can help women out who are going through abuse in your own city.